Hi, hello, it's Unsolicited Steph here with another video about preparing for architecture school. Today I'm going to run through really quickly a couple of things that I wish I knew when I started architecture school, and maybe you find these things useful, and if you want to know what they are, then stay tuned. So a bit of background first. When I started architecture school, I was coming at it as technically like a non-school leaver. I was what people think is like a mature age student. I had done another degree before, and I thought that since I had done uni before, that I would be able to understand and like figure out, and I knew kind of the method for how to study architecture. But when I started, I realized that it's actually a completely different way of studying and thinking to what I had imagined and what I was prepared for. So my first thing, and also being older, I was able to notice sort of the difference between someone who's coming fresh out of high school and someone who's actually maybe been in the world a little bit longer. The first general thing to know is that the vibe between high school and uni is very different. At high school, there's a set curriculum and there's very clear tasks and there's very clear expectations about the kinds of things you need to be learning. And at the end of like a unit or something, you'll have an assignment or you have a test which tests you on exactly the things that the teacher has asked you to learn. When you're at university, the mindset is different. It's more about learning about how to think and different ways of thinking and different ways of finding solutions to common problems. Maybe I should take my glasses off because they're reflecting a lot. No, I can't see, but now you can see my eyes, even though I can't see because everything's now blurry. When you're at uni, and especially when you're at design school, there's no such thing as a single correct answer. So you have to sort of let go of that mindset of asking the tutor, what is it that I really have to know? Like, what am I going to be marked on? And more about displaying what you've learned throughout the process. That will probably sound a little vague at this point, but I'm going to go into more about the design process in other videos to come. So don't stress too much, it is on the way. And I think as you kind of get into architecture more, you'll understand what I mean about showing the learning rather than concentrating only on the deliverables. The next thing that I have to talk about is to do with very practical stuff, and that is to do like the actual items that you will need in your backpack when you start architecture school. The main thing that you're going to need is pens and pencils. For me, I use Emoji gel ink pen, or sometimes I use, let me just grab it, felt tip pen in a 0.5. So there are different sort of thicknesses and line weights that you're going to become very familiar with, and that's important to know about. So the main thing you're going to need is a thicker kind of pen, a thinner kind of pen, and a pencil. This is not your average pencil, as you can see. It is a mechanical pencil. So inside there is a whole lead that you can take in and out. I recommend investing in something like a very thin black pen, a thick black pen, and a decent pencil. It will set you back probably total about 20 bucks, which sounds like a lot when you're first starting out, but you will use it a lot. As you go through architecture, you will gather little other tools, and I think at last kind of had 3 of these pencils. I have so many pens because you just kind of pick up different things along the way. Maybe your friend has a nice pen and you use it once and then you decide, oh, I want the same kind of pen. I've said this in a couple of other videos, but the other thing you need is an unlined notebook. At high school, I know that when you're doing like different subjects, you might need to write out a whole lot of stuff and you have lined notebooks. But when you're in architecture school or design school, you're going to be doing a lot of drawings and those lines are going to get in the way. If I show you one of my older notebooks, you can see that I'm like drawing different stuff as I go. And it's important to have a blank page to be able to do that on. The other thing that's useful to know about having a blank notebook is that if you do make drawings on the page and you think they're really nice and you want to include them in your presentations, then you can scan them in, and it's much easier to clean up that scan than if you have lined pages everywhere. Trust me. Gonna have a sip of my coffee. I'm trying to squeeze this video in between a class I had this morning and work I have to do this afternoon. I'm doing this for you guys. I'm doing this so that I stick to my schedule, so that I get it up, because yeah, I think this information is information. This information is important. The next thing you're gonna need is a roll of trace. Why is it yellow, do you ask? For a variety of reasons. Some say it's because you can see the contrast better when you do the lines. Sometimes you can see the contrast better when you overlay it over something else. A whole bunch of reasons. You don't need to use yellow trace if you don't want to. That's fine. This stuff is like 30 bucks a roll. You can literally get greaseproof paper from the supermarket, $2 a roll. Sometimes Kohl's has it on special for $1 per roll, which is a lot of trace paper. And it's essentially the same thing. What trace enables you to do is draw over other things and kind of develop designs as you go. For me, having the yellow trace is like a signal to my brain that this is not a precious drawing and that it's just a concept or it's just a sketch. And so that helps me to kind of be free of the perfectionism that kind of runs through architecture. This is going to be a bit of a tangent, but the entry mark to get into an architecture degree is very high. And associated with high marks is probably people with a high degree of perfectionism and a high degree of like achievement. It only makes sense that if you're in that degree, then you're gonna like have those tendencies. So you have to kind of try your best to get away from those things that might shackle you, because sometimes the most amazing designs will come out of your brain if you're kind of not trying to make it perfect. You can go check out my other tips video, which I'll link up there, about the secret about how to keep your trace nice and fresh. This is a hint, but you have to go watch my other video to find out how. The second last thing that I would say you definitely need, another thing you need is a backpack. You're not gonna get by with a tote bag. You're gonna have too much crap to carry around. Last thing you need is a scale ruler. Now, what is a scale ruler, here you ask? It's a ruler that enables you to draw the same thing at different scales. So if you're gonna draw something, like if I'm gonna draw this coffee cup on a page, I could draw it at its actual size, which means 1:1 scale, or you can draw it so it fits kind of smaller on the page. This isn't making sense. Maybe I need to do a video on how to draw a scale. A scale ruler is very important for drawing things to scale. It's all in the name, I guess. Take some time, get yourself one, have a little play, see how you go. It will help you wrap your head around why things are done the way they are in architecture. This one is the Kent scale number 62M. In architecture, the most common scales you're going to be drawing in are 1:1, 1:100, 1:200, 1:500, and sometimes 1:20. I would recommend getting a scale ruler. This one has 1:1, 1:5, 1:10, 1:100, 1:20, 1:200, and 1:50, and 1:500. Don't bother with the 1:25 because you're not really ever going to be drawing stuff at that level. Before you tell me like, oh Steph, I'm just going to use my computer and it's just going to do it on its own and it's all going to do all for me and it's going to be automatic. Well, let me tell you that it's actually important to do things by hand as well as on the computer. When you're in the computer, you can kind of get lost at the scale and it's hard to actually read or know what your drawing is going to look like once it's printed out. I think it's important to spend a bit of time sketching up concepts using your scale ruler and a piece of trace and a piece of paper. Sometimes you can convey information more quickly with a pencil and a piece of paper than you can if you needed to spend half an hour putting it into a computer. That is a great segue into the final thing that you're going to need, which is a decent computer. You might have some tutors and some lecturers that will tell you that you don't need a computer, but in reality, if you do want to be employed at any kind of place, you'll need to know how to use certain kinds of software. Software is yet another video that I'm going to deal with, so stay tuned for that one. And if you can't get your hands on your own personal decent computer, if you don't have the money to spend on a laptop, look at buying a decent one secondhand. I bought my computer secondhand from Gumtree or eBay. If even that is out of reach for you, then contact your university, find out what computers they have available on campus, find out when times those labs are open and when you can use them, and get familiar with the systems there. Next thing of how to prepare for architecture school is to get organized. So get yourself a calendar, literally spend some time, look at all of the information that you've gotten from your courses, write down when things are due, write down what percentage they are if they have a percentage attached to the assessment, because that will give you an idea of how much work is going to be involved. Look at when you might have things due in the same week. And then once you've planned out all of those things, look at the tasks, the subtasks that are going to be part of that for you. Think about how you might produce those things. Think about some mini deadlines for when you want to get, for example, your site plan done. Maybe you have a site and it's not going to change. And so maybe if you're feeling kind of unproductive or you don't know where to take your design next, maybe just work on getting some other tasks finished in the meantime. I have a quite elaborate setup of like task and planning on my wall that I keep right in my desk, which here obviously, because I'm a visual person, I need to be constantly reminded of things I need to do visually. On any given day, I'm looking at the lists of stuff I need to get done like 100 times because I'll just get distracted by something or go down to like a research rabbit hole. And then I need to like get back on task. Develop a system, test it out. If it doesn't work for you, look at changing the system. What I wasn't prepared for in first year is just how much work there is from the very start. In my other degree, which was an academic, it was like a kind of arts field, the structure of the semester was that you would have kind of like 3 assignments, maybe like 2 essays and a group project. And I would not start writing my essays until probably like maybe 10 days beforehand, but I would start doing the research early. In architecture, the tasks that you get on day 1, you really have to keep on top of the work, otherwise the work is going to get on top of you and not in a fun way. The last thing I'm going to say is kind of linked to my first point about the mindset. When you're coming to architecture school, you have to put away the mindset that you're there to compete or be the best at something. When you're at university, this is something that's really only kind of solidified in my mind within probably the last year, and that is to bring a really open mindset to your education. You're not there to be tested on whether you're the best at something. You're actually there to admit that you're not the best at something and that you need to learn. Tutors and lecturers and people that are around you will not respond well if you act like you know everything already. If you're first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, whatever year you're in, you're still actually learning. And every person in their whole lives, if you're not learning, you're doing something wrong. Unlike in high school where it's all about being the top of the class or getting a really good grade so that you can get a great score to get into whatever university degree you want to get into, that part's done. If you're studying architecture, that is a great achievement in and of itself. So now the time is to switch that mindset from competition and make it about collaboration, make it about learning from all the people around you, learning together with other students that are around you that might have exactly the same questions that you do. Maybe they're too scared to ask. Don't be afraid to admit that you don't know something, because that means it's an opportunity for you to learn. The whole point of a tertiary education, of university, is that it's going to stretch your brain, it's going to be hard, and you have to put in the work to get the most out of your education. I think that's really all I have to say about this stuff. Go check out my other videos about tips for preparations, tips of time management. Soon I'm going to be running some more videos about, as I mentioned, design process, software, other things. It's pretty exciting. Let me know the things that you wish you knew when you were a first year starting out. Put them in the comments below. I'm sure there are plenty of people who are watching this video who would love to have tips from people that have been doing it even a lot longer than me. And as always, it's really awkward wrapping up a video, so I'm just going to drink my coffee. And I will see you next time. Bye!